Kevin, thanks so much, man, for hopping on the Next Level Minds podcast.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Absolutely, man. I love the shirt, by the way. For those watching by video, it's like very spring, kind of gets me ready for the new season coming up.
It's my Kapalua golf shirt. I'm not allowed to play the plantation course. The every year they have the Century tournament, and
Yep.
and all the pros play in early January, and we have a home here in Kapalua, so I could see it. I can see it right over the ridge here. But I have a bunch of the shirts, so I wore one today. I thought it's appropriate. I tend to wear more Hawaiian stuff when I'm in Hawaii.
Yeah, man, I feel that. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, by the beach on the East Coast side. So
Oh, wonderful.
closets filled with pastels, Hawaiians, all that stuff. 'Cause I
Yeah,
love the
that's
beach.
right.
So
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, man, I know today we're going to talk about business, entrepreneurship, AI, a lot about your companies as well. But before we get into the nitty gritty of that, I know you personally talk a lot about joy and obviously the importance of joy with success. You even have a book about it, of course. So, on a personal note, it sounds like golf, but what are some things outside of business that do bring you joy that the listeners can know about?
Yeah, the Joy Success Cycle is a book I'm working on. It's not out yet, but we're getting close, and there's a lot we could talk about that today. It's the first time I've seen joy and success tied together. I mean, there's the obvious one of, well, I'm successful and I have money, therefore I have happiness. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about every single day, every single task. Can I find the joy in doing that task and executing that task and finishing that task? Because if I do, it leads to more success. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Other things I do, hobbies. Well, sure, I guess I'm a music director. I've conducted quite a bit orchestras and symphonies and big bands and things like that, and jazz. Uh, Also done some 60 musical productions where I've been either a percussionist, I'm a drummer also, or a music director. So very busy with that. I've got a couple of movies out there that I was highly involved with directly. One is 1660 Vine. It's a musical
Nice.
about influencers and things go right and things go wrong. That's out on Prime, and the other one is Estella Scrooge. It's a Christmas film, also a musical, music by Paul Gordon, and that is broadly available on streaming platforms.
Nice.
So I've done a lot, right on the set filming and dealing with all the things that you have to do there. But those are my artistic avenues, a few of them anyway.
Yeah, no, I love that. I feel like it's a great creative outlet to kind of escape from the stressful nature that business and entrepreneurship can sometimes be, of course. So that's cool that you're doing that.
It can always be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Stress comes along with it, but again, I think this whole mantra of the joy success cycle and recognizing that it is only as stressful as you want it to be. It is only as hard as you want it to be, and it is only as joyful as you want it to be. So, you're conducting this podcast. You could say 5 minutes before, oh, I got to interview this guy, Kevin. I don't feel like it. I'm tired. I'm this. It's late in the day. I already worked out, whatever. You could also say, wow, this is going to be a cool, even though I'm tired, this is going to be a cool time to just, have a chat and learn something new. Maybe I'll learn one or two or three things new. Who knows?
Mm.
And so it's all how you look at everything that you do, literally everything that you do. Joy is not a byproduct of doing something. It is the means to which you shall do it,
Mm.
right? So it's a complete re-mindset, a rethink of your mindset. And you control your mind. You control how you look at everything. You can get up today and say, oh, it's raining. I planned to go to the beach, but it's raining. You can also say, hey, great, it's raining. One, makes things green. Two, it gives me a chance to do these other things that I would have never done had I gone to the beach. So it's all how you look at every single thing. And when you realize that you control that, you start to stop complaining, because complaints take away from your overall positive score that you want for the day. You want to continue to drive your score, say, to a 10 from a
Mm.
0, right? And so every time you have a joyful moment, you're driving that up. But every time you complain about something, it's a joy killer, and you've taken away from that positive quotient. And you don't want to take away from that positive quotient, because then you got to build yourself out of a hole, right? You got to dig yourself out of that. So it's one of the things we'll be teaching in the book is how to do that against really every task that you have, how to measure your positive quotient up and down, and then how to set goals for yourself in terms of any internal or external complaints, because they all are just joy killers, all of them, and you just don't need that in your life.
Yeah, and to me, it kind of sounds like a bank account, right? You need to make more deposits
Right.
than withdrawals to have that positive bank
Absolutely.
account. So it sounds like what you're alluding to from a comparison side is same type of thing, more deposits into that positive, joyful
That's
side.
right.
Okay.
That is right. Make deposits all day, and my rule of thumb is it's hard for people to do that. Well, here's the takeaway. What I want people to do when they listen to this, right? Tomorrow, I want you to wake up and start counting the number of complaints that you have,
Mhm.
internal or external. I might have told someone that. I might have kept it internally, but how many? The average American probably has 100 complaints a day or more, and you'll be surprised when they add up. And every time you have a complaint, it takes away from your positive quotient, right? You're withdrawing from your bank account, as you said. And then I want you the second day to have a different goal. Here's the goal. You get one complaint, internal or external, the entire day. The entire day? The entire day. You got to go from 100 to 1. Now, the reason this is an important exercise is that you get up in the morning, you go, oh, boy, my knees hurt today. You used up your entire quota for the day. You're done. That's it. All done. And it starts to really reframe your mind going, okay, I can't complain about this. So you go up to your monitor and you turn it on and it doesn't come on. I can't complain about it. I have to find some joy in, oh, I'm going to use this other thing instead, or I'll go get this other one, or it gives me a chance to buy a new one, or whatever the case is, right? You now have to look at everything in a positive way rather than, oh, it's someone else, it's something else that's happened to me that's negative. It's something else I have to fire this person today. That's a terrible thing. Well, hang on. It might be positive for them and positive for you. Everybody might be in a better space a week from now after they leave this particular job that isn't working for them and isn't working for you, right? So you got to find the positive side of everything so that you continue to build joy in everything that you do, which continues to build your positive quotient, continues to put money in the bank. And the reason you do that is you cannot have the success that you want in life. Could be monetary, could be family, could be going to the beach every day, whatever, without joy. Joy is the driver that gets you there. So this isn't foo-foo happiness. It isn't some kind of Zen thing. It's a different way to look at every single task in work, at home, either way. And the more joy you bring to each of those tasks, the more successful you will be. I guarantee it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, it's very full circle. Like, it's going to help you be a better entrepreneur, better family man, better
That's
gym
right.
goer, whatever your thing is. And to me, and I'm sure the book talks about this a little bit, and you will probably agree, to me, it sounds like a muscle. Like, the more you work on that
Yes,
joy muscle, the stronger it
that's
gets,
right.
right? Okay.
That's right. The more you work on that, so I live that way all day. I have no complaints. I have nothing to complain about, which I think doesn't make my wife very happy, but I have nothing to complain about. There is nothing to complain about. I wake up in the morning and go, wow, the alternative to waking up was death. I could have died in my sleep. I didn't die in my sleep. This is a great day. The sun is shining. It's a great day. The sun isn't shining. It's a great day. It doesn't matter. It is the day will be what you make of it.
Mm.
Period. Full stop. And all of this came because people, I've got almost 100 worldwide patents, and people said, how did you do all of that? Well, my mind was open to it. Why was your mind open to it? Because every single task I took on, I looked at it from the frame of joy. How is this bringing me joy? What can I find? How can I find the joy in this task? And when you do that, your mind is much more open to see where there's real problems, where there are real problems in the world that you might want to solve, and then how you can tackle those problems with a variety of technology or business acumen or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So really, all of that came from that. That's sort of the source of it all, and so I can tell you that when you live a life that is driven by this muscle of joy in every moment, just changes everything. It changes everything. You will never regret a day. You'll never regret anything you did, because no matter what you did it with joy at that
Yeah.
moment in time,
Yeah.
right?
Man, I'm getting fired up over here. We're only like 5 minutes in. This is awesome. Thanks for bringing all this up. And
Yeah,
speaking of business, I know you started a lot of different companies. You just alluded to close to 100 patents. I believe it's like 94. Could be wrong there,
that's
but
right.
um,
94.
yeah, 94 if you're being technical here. But I know you started out in sales, which, we have that in common. I
I
mentioned that before
did.
we started recording. So, can you take us back though? What was that moment where you're like, all right, I'm going to take the leap and jump into this thing called entrepreneurship and have that be the rest of my life?
Sure. Well, let me go back to how I ended up in sales. It's funny. I was always into electronics, and I loved repairing electronics and learning about electronics and reading about electronics and how electronics worked, etc. But so I was going to college for an electronics degree, a
Hmm.
double E, right? But as I graduated high school, I wanted to get a job. I needed money. I wanted money. Money's good. Money brings joy. Joy brings money. It's all good. So I applied and got a job because I was technical mostly, but I got a job having no sales experience at, in those days, an audio video retailer called Sounds Great in upstate New York. And I know we had maybe 16 stores, something like that, throughout the Northeast. A very successful company. And I very, very quickly became, out of 250 salespeople or so, one of the top 10 salespeople in the entire company in the Northeast. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was pretty good at it, and I understood the technology. So I could, a lot of it, I could sell video when no one else could. I could sell computers where, the other guys wanted to sell stereo receivers and speakers because they had that down, and turntables, which are back. But they didn't want to sell the other thing. So partly that worked. But here's the funny story. We had a guy come in that had basically that had modeled a sales methodology after the Dale Carnegie sales course, not the Dale Carnegie course, but the Dale Carnegie sales course, of which there was one at the time. And there's 5 steps of a sale: open, qualification, conviction, objection, close. And there, by the way, you can take a million sales courses. Those 5 will be there. They may be named something different. Maybe it'll be 7. Maybe we repeat one. But basically, you're going to open, right? You're going to qualify or listen to their needs, right? Understand their needs. You're going to convince them that you have something to meet those needs. Then you're going to handle their objections. It's price. It's my wife. It's my this thing. It's the color. And finally, you're going to close. That's what we do. Those are the 5 steps. You will do them in that order. You cannot skip any of them. And salespeople I've worked with over the years, the worst ones are the ones who think they're fantastic and they skip right over the qualification phase or the learning phase, right? And they go right into, "Hi, I'm Kevin. Let me show you what we have. We have this incredible, here it is. We have this incredible luxury home magazine." It's not going to do it because of the way my camera's set right now. And you're going to love reading it. You're going to blah, 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 blah. And the guy says, "Excuse me, I'm blind. I can't read." Right. You never listened. You never asked them what they were looking for. Right. So anyway, I took this course, but I was already in the top 10, and I kind of blew off the course, and I flunked the final. Now, I wasn't going to lose my job because I was one of the top 10 salespeople, but I didn't take it seriously. And my manager is named Mike Rest, and I thank him for this. Great guy. He calls me and he says, "Kevin, what happened here?" "Well, blah, blah, blah." He says, "Yeah, you were full of yourself. You had all kinds of hubris. You ignored what they taught you. You didn't pay any attention because you're so good, and you flunked the final. I mean, it wasn't that hard. How could you flunk the final in this thing?" Well, he says, "Listen." And I said, "Look, I'm one of the top 10 salespeople." He said, "Yeah, but you could have been number 1. And now you're stuck at number 10 because had you learned the course and done that, think of how much better it would have made you." It's a little bit like, I'm Tiger Woods, but I still need a golf coach. Why? Well, because they can see things I can't see, and they can teach me new tricks, right? So the next time the course was taught, a few months later, I took it super seriously. I said, "Hold it. I can make more money if I learn this stuff and add it to my toolkit." So I did. I learned all that stuff. I added it to my toolkit. I got 100 on the test. I became a teacher of the course, and then I've taught variations of that course for the rest of my career to my sales teams. And then I became often the number one or number two or number three salesperson in the company, right? So, so that was a great learning, a great lesson for me that I never really needed again. It was like, Kevin, there's always more to learn. Be humble.
Mm.
No matter how much you think you know, you're not going to learn anything by listening to yourself that you don't already know. So you have to learn these other things. And so I have taught, as I said, sales teams often this course, and I can tell who's listening and who isn't when they take the test and all of that. And the ones that blow you off, it's like, goodbye. Actually, you're never going to do as well as the people who want to learn. All right, so then I took that skill and combined it with my engineering degree from Rochester Institute of Technology, ultimately. And I went to work first in a regular large company with, I don't know, 50,000 employees or something. Well, I was at IBM, and then I had a company called National Semiconductor, and then I went to a smaller company, and that was actually good because I got very large to medium to small, because to go out and do your own company, there's a lot you need to know. And I think that, look, it's not that Mark Zuckerberg didn't make, $100 billion right out of college, not even graduating from college, right? Yes, I know that. And so did Bill Gates, etc. But the truth is, you are a much better entrepreneur if you have some large company experience, some medium, some small, and some very small. Because once you're in a very small company with like 10 people, you learn finance, you learn sales, you learn marketing. You're in with everybody, right? And you want to walk away and run your own company with examples of those skills. You want those skills inside you already, right? Not that you were the head of marketing, but you knew everything that he or she did by the time you started your own company. So I always recommend to entrepreneurs, go work for some companies. It's great to work for a big one for a couple of years because they do things in a certain way. Go find a small startup and work in that and figure out, by the way, what they did right and what they did wrong. Chances are they're going to go belly up because statistically that's what happens, 9 out of 10. But go learn and watch what they do and learn what works for you and what doesn't. Learn what marketing does. Learn what sales does. Learn how they go after. Learn what the issues are in engineering if you've got a technical company or whatever it is. Whether maybe it's a hardware company, they got to make hardware, right? Learning all of that and then starting your company makes you so much better, such a better engineer, such a better leader, such a better entrepreneur, all up, right? So highly recommend that.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I took that route.
No, that's awesome. I love that you mentioned that. Like, I've had experience on mid-size level, like about 1,000. Then I jumped to like 10, learned a lot there. And then now I'm back at like 50,000, Fortune 500. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because like each company I've been at, I can extract so many lessons, especially the 10-person company. Because you're right, like I was in sales, but I was sitting right next to finance, to marketing, to this, to that, learning
Yep.
the intricacies. But like large company level, it's like obviously, as you know, you're just in your small little lane in this giant pool. But it is cool because you can kind of see, okay, this company was started in the 70s and they've built out all these great systems and processes, and okay, that's cool how they've been able to do that. So, but I love your approach
Right.
too of like go work for that smaller company and like get all of that experience and then kind of take that. So, first company that you started, it was Air Communications was the
It
first
was.
one after sales.
It
Okay.
was Air Communications. That's correct. And we made the world's first cellular data phone. And
Wow.
that was in the early 1990s.
Okay. And that was where you kind of took that electrical engineering expertise a bit from that, or
I had my degree in double E. I had already been working in other companies on
right.
hardware products as well as software products. I did hardware and software all the way through my career and through university, right? So I could code and I wrote code. I could design hardware and I designed hardware. I could work on the mechanical issues, the industrial design issues, which I did, and I still do. When we look at some of my current companies like Token Ring, I have worked on hardware, I've worked on software or interacted with the teams that do and helped manage that. I've worked a lot on the industrial design issues, the manufacturing issues, because over not only university, but after that, throughout my career, I got to really be involved in all of those kinds of activities, right? And they're all real. I mean, you cannot underestimate how challenging an industrial design situation is. For example, if you're making a wearable ring, it basically commands jewelry,
Yeah.
jewelry level quality, except it has 85 components inside, electronic components, right? So that's really fascinating to think about all of the technology and all the knowledge and all the history and all the experience that has to go into making something like that.
Yeah. What's your thought process when it comes from idea to putting it down on paper to actually like taking it and run with it? And got kind of a two-parter here. Is there a difference between like doing that in 1992, I believe, when you started that, to like now in
Sure,
2025? Like, is it the same
sure.
approach, or is it like, no, in this day and age, I would suggest doing X, Y, and Z, you know?
Well, look, in the end, you're either going to, well, it depends on what kind of entrepreneur you are, right? There's entrepreneurs who start a dry cleaning service, okay? So it can be anything, right? But ultimately, you're going to have a product that interfaces with people, whether it's businesses or consumers, and that might just be software today. If it's just software, you can expand infinitely in about a day, right? Because it's the web, and you can do that, or it's mobile, and you can do that. If it's hardware, you will surely underestimate how hard it is to create that hardware and make it reliably in volume, for sure, because it's hardware's hard. And so what's changed? What's changed is the ability to get your information, idea, product, market, whatever, to billions of people. We could not consider such a, 1992, you'd run an ad in a magazine. you know, I mean, that's how you get to people. There's no online yet, right? So you'd run ads in magazines. You'd try to get some articles in print magazines. Maybe you get a TV spot. We might put an ad on airplanes that had the little, things on the back of the seats. They started to have those. So, you would try to do all kinds of crazy things, radio, to get to where people would hear about you, right? Well, today, look, I can use LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Insta, etc., and literally touch a billion people if that's what I want to do, if I have enough money and time to do it. But there's a model to do it, and nobody would say I'm only going to advertise offline. You're going to do what? Who's going to find you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we now have models and methods to get our products and services in front of everyone we want to, whether it's local, whether it's regional, whether it's national, whether it's worldwide. And we can do so in an hour, literally.
Yeah.
Right? I can come up with something that's viral on YouTube, gets picked up on the other social networks, and before you know it, I've had 2 million views. And 2 million views, wow, I got to 2 million people just like that. Now, in 1992, clearly I could have bought a Super Bowl ad and done something similar. Or an ad on some other very popular TV show, Friends or something, right? But that's about it. I mean, you're kind of limited in what you could have done other than very expensive television. Today, for almost free, I can do stuff on the web.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, yeah, you could have bought the Super Bowl ad, but I mean, that would have been a ridiculous amount of money. Now with Facebook ad campaigns, all these things, like even just
Right.
free posting on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, you
That's
can
right.
reach all those people for
Well,
very low
I'll
cost.
give you an
So,
example. Give you an example. You're essentially a broadcaster with this podcast, and you're a broadcaster. If you wanted to get on the air and say anything you wanted to say in 1992, you probably needed to own a radio station or a network, because you'd have no producer would tell you what to do. You just go do it. It's your thing. So, of course, you could have bought a radio station or a network for tens or hundreds of millions of dollars or more. And it would have taken millions and millions of dollars of equipment to broadcast your signal out to the world. That's what it costs, right? And now for a $200 microphone and $100 camera and an internet connection that's $19 a month, you and 45 million others are broadcasting.
Yeah.
Now, there's a long tail on that, right? There's a few people up at the top, like Mr. Beast, that's making 65 million a year in this business, right? Period, full stop. And then there's the long tail, and most people make absolutely nothing.
Right. Yeah.
But they're enjoying getting this information and conversation out there, right? But can you imagine the following? By this technology now being available and the cost being so low, we have democratized access to broadcasting. Anyone could be a broadcaster. Anyone for almost no money. And again, in 1992, if you wanted to do that, if you didn't have the money, you would have to go and pitch yourself to a radio network or a television network and beg and plead for airtime or get hired. The chance of that happening is zero, right? I mean, the chance of you having that opportunity in 92 would have been zero because very few people had that opportunity. Almost no one. There were 5 radio personalities and that's all there were. That's it.
Yeah.
But there were 500,000 wannabes that never had the chance to go pitch themselves in New York City at corporate headquarters of ABC and get the deal.
Right.
Not going to happen. So this democratization of technology is interesting. The democratization of marketing and being able to reach billions of people so quickly changes the game for everybody who's an entrepreneur, because you can go out and try to reach everyone if you want to.
Yeah. So obviously, like, that's positive to be able to do that, but how can one kind of separate themselves when everybody can do that, right?
Well, that's always the case, right? I mean, you want to have moats around your product. One thing I don't love, but people have been successful, is we are seeing people with products or offerings that really have no moat around them, meaning anyone could have done the same thing in a weekend, but they were first and somehow got some viral activity, and now you can't beat them, right? Can't beat them because it went viral and you didn't, and that's it. So that's kind of interesting. You have to really think about, do I want a moat around my product line? Is it so hard that no one else can do it, or is it so easy it's just an idea that anyone can do? So now I really have to be first, and I really have to be the best at marketing. I have to be, and I have to be so good at building that brand in an internet methodology that nobody's going to beat me, because I've got the first 1 million users, and everyone else has got 2,000, right?
Yeah.
So then it comes down to marketing, and people would say even in 1992 you'd want to differentiate yourself through marketing. So I don't think the fundamentals of marketing have changed. All of the rules around getting people to see your brand 3 times before they try it and all of that are pretty much the same. It's just we have many more avenues to reach millions of people in a pretty low cost fashion.
Yeah, I also feel like too, at least from my perspective, like I personally am the consumer that likes to invest. When I say invest, as in buy their products, that has like similar core values, beliefs as I have, and then seeing that branding is like protein, for example. Like I like to use a protein company that has like good core values and
Right.
American made and all that, and it's like, okay, like maybe it's a little bit more expensive than this random one off Amazon, but like this aligns with who I am as a person.
Yeah.
So
And that's branding. That's branding. Yeah. I mean, if you make something in the United States today, you raise that flag, because you're going to be proud that it costs more. Yes, this costs more, but American jobs, high quality, these kinds of inspections, blah, 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 blah. You can always get protein from China. It's nearly free. They'll practically ship it to you for nothing. From Temu or something, right? It's 12 cents a pound. But who knows what's in that thing? There's no rules and regulations there. I don't know what's in it, right? You really want to put that in your body? Probably not. So we are seeing a great resurgence of, not only design, but made in America. And I think that's good. I think we've, as a country, not just us, all the countries have recognized that there is a cost of doing business with, in essence, people who want to be your enemy, right? Not people, but governments, right? And China, Russia, North Korea, Iran are very good examples of countries. We did a lot of business with Russia. We thought they were our friend. They were never our friend. They're communist.
Right.
No, when you do business with communist countries, it might bite you someday, right?
Agreed.
And so all this stuff we're bringing in from China is not a sustainable model. It's not that it's nothing against the Chinese people. It's nothing. It's just their government is one that absolutely wants to, take basically occupy other countries and take their stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or steal intellectual property. That is a model of their government that isn't new. It's been around for 30 years, and we know this, but we still like cheap stuff. So at some point, we have to wean ourselves from cheap stuff and say, are there countries that are more friendly to us, that have democracies that we should be interacting with? And where there's not, maybe we should, automate more, but make it at home, right? Those are and a lot of that's going on. We're trying to bring semiconductors back home. It's too dangerous to make them in Taiwan. And we're actually seeing a lot of reshoring, actually. The manufacturing jobs have been up mostly for the last few years. I think we're at our highest level of manufacturing jobs in the U.S. that we've had in maybe decades, a long time. So that's interesting. The other thing that's happening is AI is starting to eliminate certain kinds of tasks. And, I spend most of my time in AI today, AI and cybersecurity. And a lot of my patents are in AI. And so AI and customer support, for example, can completely eliminate tier one customer support or call centers. I don't need that call center. Why? Well, AI can do the job. I can have a virtual assistant answer the phone and actually do a better job than humans are doing. We've measured this. However, all of our call center work was sent overseas over the last 20 years. So the first jobs that are actually being impacted, we already moved overseas. Those are being impacted first. The reason we moved them overseas is to drive the cost down. The reason we're going to replace them with AI is to drive the cost down further. That's just how it works. So I wouldn't be too worried about like jobs in the US being eliminated by AI. It's really going to impact a lot of offshore jobs. AppVance, one last thing on this point. AppVance, one of my companies, has invented a technology where AI finds bugs in software, and we're working on technology that will do that more and more and better, et cetera, et cetera. And soon it will be so good that the 2.5 to 3 million people, almost all offshore, that are employed in software quality assurance won't be needed because AI can frankly do that job better, right?
Yeah.
They won't be needed, but they're mostly offshore. The ones we have onshore, we're going to keep because they're senior level, mostly management. They're at a different level of authority and strategy and architecture than sort of the doers that are offshore. So those jobs that are offshore are at great risk, and we're seeing that. Even at AppVance, we see, depending on who we're working with, hey, I've got a team of 282 people. I don't want to make it smaller. All right, we're not talking to the right person who can buy, right? The person who can buy says, you can do this 10 times faster at 1/10 the cost. Yes, I'll take that. I'll take that.
For
and
sure.
by the way, technology over history has been about improving human productivity. And so much so that some tasks are eliminated while it creates opportunities for others.
Yeah.
The wheel eliminated some tasks and created a lot of opportunities for an awful lot of other people all the way to today.
Yeah. Along those lines, I was listening to Kevin O'Leary the other day talking about AI, and he was like, it's going to be the implementation side of AI, which is going to be a good opportunity. So like to that point and to your point that you just
we call
mentioned,
applied AI.
What are your kind of perspectives as in like those opportunities that are out there in the future?
It's all about applied AI. I've been in the applied AI space, so there is a core AI creating new models like the transformer models, like at OpenAI. Great work, freaking smart, way smarter than I am. Applied AI is where you take that and say, how do I apply it to this field so that X number of people can take advantage of it, millions of people can take advantage of it, right? And so there's these foundational models, and then it's how do I use that foundational model in a unique way? That's way outside the purview of what OpenAI would do themselves, but adds incredible value. I mean, what we're doing at AppVance is an example of applied AI. We have a couple million lines of code on top of the AI model. So you're leveraging AI models, privatizing those AI models, retraining them in certain ways, and using them in unique ways. And it's a couple million lines of code just to do that. outside of the models, right? So
Yeah.
it's not something you do in a weekend. It's not something that you go, hey, I've got this idea. Me and my friend will just do it. We've had a couple companies do that, by the way, kind of start and say, oh, we can fully automate, blah, 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 blah. They're all dead. Like they lasted about 3 months and found out it was literally 1,000 times harder than they thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
It is literally that hard. So applied AI, AI agents, which is a type of applied AI, going to be big. Humanoid robotics, leveraging large language models, both speech and listening, speech to text and text to speech, are going to be huge by 2030. I don't know. People are saying we're going to have 1 billion humanoid robots. Probably. I don't think that'll be by 2030, but it might be, 2040. But we will have humanoid robots in our homes by 2030, just in 5 years. The changes that have happened this year in humanoid robotics in terms of training, up until this year, we mostly wrote rules-based systems. It was all code. So if I wanted the robot to pick up this cup that you can't see really well, but there it is, I would write code to say, all right, here is the visual acuity. Here's the visual line. Now move the hand towards it. Now squeeze, but only so much for this kind of plastic. Then pick it up. Okay, you'd code all that in, right? Now we've got them learning by themselves with reinforcement learning. So what we're doing is saying, here's a human picking up this cup. You go figure out how to do that same task. And it'll sit there for 3 days, knock it over, all kinds of, but it slowly learns to do it by reinforcement learning, and it reinforces what it's learning that takes it in a positive direction. Reinforcement learning is based on only winning. I want to win. So to win, I ultimately have to pick up the cup and bring it to my mouth, for example, right?
And once it learns it, since it's all like code, essentially, is it then
It
like
builds a neural net.
100%? Is it 100% success rate of picking up that cup then in that situation?
It can, yeah. Most reinforcement learning drives to 100% success rate in the task.
Okay.
That's how we taught computers to play games. We didn't teach it to play the game. We just said, play it 1,000,000 times and learn yourself until you can't lose. And eventually, you can't play a computer anymore at chess, and you haven't been able to for a very long time. For the last 15 years, your phone would beat you at chess. Why? It's not beatable. You might tie, but you can't beat the computer. That's ridiculous. It's not possible. You can't beat it at Go anymore. You can't beat it at any game. So it's pretty easy to train these things, and they'll train up a neural net basically and learn all of the idiosyncrasies of winning.
Yeah.
That's it. And they've learned it. And so this is just a winning game. The win is I pick up the cup. The next win is to make coffee. The next win is to put the dishes away. The next win is to change the sheets on your bed, right? All of those are in.
Yeah. Do we need to be worried about the whole iRobot situation, or is that just some fear mongering?
No, certainly any kind of machine can malfunction, but we've only got a few minutes left, so I won't get into all the idiosyncrasies of this. But these systems are not today meant to do anything that humans haven't already done. Of course, they've read iRobot, right? They know that exists. They know that love exists. They know that robots going crazy exists. They know that nuclear bomb, but they don't know in the way we think they know. So when you talk to ChatGPT, you go, wow, I had no idea it knew that. Actually, it doesn't know anything. All it did was build a humongous neural net with trillions of inputs on how to put one word after another in a particular sentence, and it goes and looking for that best match. So if I said, does Chris Chapman host a podcast? It might come back and say, Chris Chapman hosts the following podcast, right? Why does it do that? Because it's read about that, right? It actually doesn't know anything. It has retrieved that information in a far better way than Google does. But it's still a retrieval of information. Didn't think up anything new, didn't invent anything new, didn't decide I should kill Chris Chapman, right? Didn't do that. Doesn't know how to do that. Isn't programmed to do that. It's not programmed to do anything but put one word after another. And so even when we're going to interact with these robots, they're based on transformers and LLMs. They're putting one word after another, and then they're executing only the tasks that they've been taught. right? And they've been taught to clean and cook and service you in certain ways. Now, the U.S. Army may be training robots,
Right.
to take guns and shoot them, right? And they'll use reinforcement learning for that, or take knives, and you would expect that. You'd expect there's a time in the future when you deploy humanoid robots to the battlefield, not actual humans. Why would you put humans at risk? If they kill the robot, I can make new ones, right?
Hmm.
So that's realistic that you could train them. The ones in our home have not been trained to do that at
Yeah.
all. Now maybe we'll have a self-defense robot, meaning that someone entered your home, it would go to the front door and do something bad. But I suspect there'll be laws against that, because if it doesn't recognize the person, it happens to be your mother-in-law, you might not. Well, you might be okay with it, but your wife would not be okay with the fact that the robot killed her mother, right? I'm kidding. That's all a joke. Don't get mad here.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the listeners.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's funny. Until they just scrape the
Listeners.
wrong audio. Kevin mentioned this.
Yeah.
It's like no, no,
Kevin,
no.
Kevin said, "Kill the mother-in-law." No,
Yeah.
it's no, absolutely not, absolutely not. No, it's this misrecognition that could happen. So I suspect robots in homes will have a whole bunch of safety
Yeah.
requirements, including safety requirements of they are not trained to kill.
Hmm. Cool, man. I got two more for you real quick. One last one on the AI side. How can entrepreneurs kind of balance that like technology component with the human touch component, right?
How can say it again? How
So
can
how can entrepreneurs out there, business owners
sure,
that are
with a human
leveraging
touch?
AI
Yeah,
balance the other human
sure.
stuff?
I use AI for everything.
Yep.
There's almost nothing I don't do without AI. I summarize work. I take it. I analyze documents. I do everything. Right. I ask it for the appropriate email reply. Look, first of all, LLMs can be as human as you'd like in terms of what they're writing. If I want to write 52 blog posts today, I can, and I can make them very much in line with the way I speak, because I can teach it how I speak and then say, do it aligned with the way Kevin sounds, right? And it will. It's just doing what I told it to do. It's just a machine. And so you can make this as human as you want. I look at these as extensions of our brain, right? I'm still in charge. It will sound like me if I want it to, right? It will replicate what I would have said. It'll just do it a million times faster than I could do. So I can amplify my brain power by 100x using these tools. But it's my brain. I'm amplifying my brain. It doesn't do anything by itself. I have to initiate what I want. I would like a blog post on the joy success cycle based on this chapter of my book, and a summary and 3 points that come from it that people need to do. Boom! It's done in 5 seconds. I could write that. I know the material. I wrote the original material. But for me to write it and do that would have taken 2 hours, because I'm starting with a blank piece of paper, right? And I fiddle with and so it's amplifying my brain power. I cannot emphasize enough. You need to stop playing with ChatGPT and start using these tools for work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a super good point there. I like that the human component is there, but you have to train it to do that and
Right.
have it kind of get to know you.
Exactly.
Last thing, you mentioned this like 20 minutes ago about, startups, majority of them fail, things of that nature.
Yeah.
What are some ways that a company cannot be part of that percentage, maybe extracting
Sure.
some learning lessons from your entrepreneurial endeavors?
Number one, solve real pain points. Most companies that start, at least in Silicon Valley, but maybe around the world too, have a great solution for which there is no pain point that anyone will pay for. It's a great solution. Well, I can print this in green. So are people going to pay you for that? I talked to entrepreneurs. I've got this great idea, and it produces this for these poor people in Africa. I said, fantastic. They have no money to pay you.
Right.
Yeah, but you're right. It's a great thing for a nonprofit to do. It's a great thing for the Gates Foundation to do, right? It might not be a great startup because the people you're selling to can't pay you. The best startups sell goods or services to businesses or people who have money to pay for them and have a real pain point. So when I invited Quiet Rock, it was important because we had noise coming through walls in hotels and condominiums and townhomes, and people were getting sued. So if you could have a piece of drywall that was soundproof, that would stop that noise. That's a great thing. People will pay you a lot of money for quiet. And they did. That is a multi-billion-dollar product line today, right? When we retrofitted the windows in the Empire State Building, that is something that people would pay you for because they got their money back in 3 years. When we invented AI at AppVance, all of our AI ties right back to either labor you have today or labor you would have purchased to achieve these results. And so you decide, is it real savings or is it soft savings? But either way, this machine will do work for you, the equivalent of X people, right? Some you may have, you may not have. This may be aspirational work you want, right? Those are real problems. It's faster, it's better, it's cheaper. People pay you for that. So job one, solve real pain points. Don't come up with a fake pain point. And just because you think it's a pain point, you need to go out and ask a lot of people, do you have this pain point? If we solve this for you, is it valuable, right? If they say, no, 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 oh, you don't understand. Maybe they do understand. Look, your customers cannot design your product, but they can tell you about their pain. Can't design your product. If they could, they'd be working for you. But they can tell you about their pain. And Steve Jobs was famous for this, right? People didn't know. This is interesting. Right? People didn't know they needed an iPhone until they put one in their hand. And then they go, how'd I live without it? And Steve could sense they had a pain point they didn't know they had, but they had because they didn't have access to their information 24/7. Because when they were driving or they were somewhere, they're just out away from their home, they had no access to their information. And we were becoming an information society. So if you could deliver all that information to them, including phone calls, texting, messaging, emails, calendar, contacts, web, that would change their life. So they actually, all of us had that pain point. We didn't know we had the pain point because we never knew what life would be without it, right? With or without it. Now, if I take your phone away from you, actually, if your phone dies, you run to the phone store and fix it. I mean, it's like you don't continue on with life. Life ends when the phone goes off, right? It's fascinating. So look for real pain points that you can really, truly identify that people will pay you real money for. Who thought that people would pay $1,500 for a cellular phone?
Right.
But you can't live without it. You can't live without it. That's what's fascinating. So anyway, there's a couple of things. There's a million more lessons, but for today at 52 minutes and 37 seconds, I think we've done pretty well.
Yeah, man. I love that. I think that's a huge nugget right there. Lastly, where can people connect with you? When's the book coming out? All those great things there.
Yeah. Book will be out this year, 2025. And kevinsurace.com is my website. It's my first name, last name.com, kevinsurace.com. And my LinkedIn is there, and I do answer my LinkedIn messages as long as they're nice.
Right on, and not spammy either, right? So
not spammy. I get a lot of spammy ones. But, it is what it is, right? Always trying to sell you something.
Yeah, and the book is Joy Success Cycle. Is that the
Joy Success Cycle? And out later this year. The final draft is sitting here, but I always think it's final, and then I think of more things.
Yeah,
and then it's not final anymore.
Yeah. Absolutely, Kevin. Well, man, this was an absolute blast. I know the listeners got a lot of value, so thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Absolutely.